All right, guys, welcome to a little afternoon entertainment here. Tom Love. A little afternoon entertainment, guys. Hope you guys are doing great. You're out there watching it on Facebook or you're on the webinar. And what I want to do this afternoon is I want to kind of set the frame for tightening up a person's explanation of services. And let's talk about, I've got Tom Love, the EOS master here, who created the framework for the explanation of service. And many of those have been in my Monster Producer coaching program or been in the Breakaway League with Tom or seen either Tom speak or me speak know that the EOS is a central component to everything. It really initiates a lot of things, okay? And so for some of you that are out there, you may not know what the explanation of service is. You're just now coming into this. You're like, yes, I need to tighten up. You may call it your pitch in some cases. Some people used to call it their elevator pitch, but it's so much more than this. And so what we're going to talk about this afternoon is the importance of really having a world-class explanation of service. Why do you need to spend time on this? What can it do for the sales cycle? How does it help you gain clarity quicker about who you want to do business with and who you don't want to do business with? How does it speed up the velocity of a sale? So Tom Love, welcome to the afternoon show with Coach Burt. And this is kind of I've been doing webinars with all these people, and I thought, man, this is a perfect time for people to be tightening up their explanation of service. This is a perfect time for you to be thinking. So for the people that are out there, explain what the explanation of service is. And here's an interesting point. Why did you come to the realization that you needed to create this framework? Because I think that's a part that a lot of people don't really think about. What hit you and said, you know what, I need a better way to explain my value to people, explain a strategy to people? What was the lightning rod that caused that?
Do you want me to go back to 2013 when I met you?
Yes, sure. Good times.
Okay, I'll do this quickly because if you've heard me speak, I say this every time I go anywhere. It was in 2013 that three things happened to me because I began to take a serious look at myself as opposed to the industry. I'm in a very, very commoditized industry where we look alike, sound alike, drive the same cars, dress alike. And it's just, it's sad. So there were three things that affected me in 2013. One was meeting you and that book that you have over your right shoulder, How to Become a Person of Interest. Yep. And I was introduced to Simon Sinek, Start With Why. And I read the book, The Challenger Sale. And it was really that perfect trifecta that put me in a framework that I have only one opportunity for a first impression. And I have to also understand that when I'm asked, what do you do for a living? 90% of the time you're asked that, people really don't even want to hear the answer. They're being courteous. They're just trying to fill a void. So you have one opportunity for a first impression. And I learned from you that it takes 20 some odd positive touches to change a negative first impression. And I don't think anybody that you've offended is going to want to hang around you for 26 touches. So I have one shot at this. So it was becoming a person of interest, becoming someone that is either being attracted to rather than pushed away from. And it was Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And it was so apparent that when you start with what, when somebody asks, what do you do? I mean, it's designed to fail you. And people don't care what you do. They want to know why you do it because what you do just proves what you believe. But in our country, nobody ever starts a conversation by saying, hey, Coach Burt, why do you do what you do? Mm-hmm. It's always simply what. And the reason is they want to quickly put you in a pigeonhole where they can write you off. Yep. Oh, I definitely don't need you. So I don't allow anybody to know what I do until I have determined with my dialogue to them if it's anybody I want to work with. I mean, you've taught me very well. I'm the buyer in this relationship. I'm not selling a thing. Right. And it was the Challenger Sale where people today don't want to be sung kumbaya with, and they don't want to have their hand held, and they don't want to be told the world is a nice place. It isn't. What we want today, and this is according to the authors who wrote the book, we need to challenge people. Really, that's all my whole strategy does is challenge the way people think about what they're doing, because I'll ask a few questions, and based on those answers, I'll then prove to the client that they're doing the exact opposite of what they thought. So by challenging, having people with an open mind, identifying quickly whether you've got somebody who believes what you believe, and stop chasing them. that my life is, my income basically is quadrupled since 2013.
Nice. So at the end of the day, so many people, you use the word, in essence, it's a commodity trap, how most people explain their services. This is what we do. Okay. And
I'm a realtor.
yeah, I'm a realtor. I'm a mortgage originator. I'm in the insurance business. I'm doing this. And what that does for the folks that are watching, guys, is, to Tom's point, it allows them to immediately go, well, I've already got a realtor, or I've already got an insurance guy. I don't need you. It allows people to just discard you very quickly. So it's one of the greatest traps in the world when people ask you what you do for a living and you lead with, well, I do this. Okay. And so if you've ever heard me speak, when people ask me, you know that I always start every presentation off with, I'm Coach Michael Burt. I believe everybody needs a good coach in life. I believe a good coach can change your life. I believe those that have a coach earn 3 and 4 times the amount of money than those that haven't. Right? I believe you can't see the picture when you're inside the frame. I could go on and on and on about things I believe because of the framework. Now, let's walk through the pieces of the framework, because many of you are out there selling. Lots of people are selling on the phone today, right? And there's all kinds of theories about selling over the phone. You know, I was watching Cialdini this weekend on the power of persuasion and seeding, and you know, he would teach that you ask certain questions like, Tom, would you consider yourself a progressive person? Would you consider yourself open-minded? Would you consider yourself adventurous? Would you be open to new strategy if I showed it to you? He calls that seeding, right? And then when people say, yes, I would consider myself an open-minded person, right? At what point does a person launch into their beliefs from your perspective? Is there, because there's all kinds of theories. Like here's a theory, and I want you to attach this. Like you initiate, you disarm through some type of connection or rapport building, you locate a significant problem, you offer a compelling solution, right? Like that's a series, right? Those are 4 steps. Like where does the EOS come in?
Well, here's the neat thing. I really have never had more fun than I'm having now, because not only do I get to be the buyer, I get to pick and choose who I want to do business with. And I'll usually, you call it seeds, I throw bombs. I would love to share with you 2 examples of me sitting in first class, giving a presentation, my EOS, and 2 different responses. And most of the audience would say, well, gee, you succeeded in one, but failed at the other. And I will argue I succeeded at both.
Yeah.
Because to me, the explanation of services is not only designed to find the 16% of the population that will buy from you, but to me, it's more important to identify the 84% that would have wasted my life. Mm-hmm. I'm sitting in first class, flying to a Fort Lauderdale to do a boot camp. And the person sitting next to me, before we take off, says, you know, what do you do? And I had just finished the book with you. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know, let's have some fun. I said this to myself. And I don't recommend you do this. I took my finger and I pointed it at him. And I said, I teach people just like you how to accumulate as much wealth as you want off the radar screen of the IRS for income tax purposes using the tax code. Mm-hmm. And he leaned forward and he said, what? And I said, I've never had more fun. I'm using the tax code and showing the average American person how they can accumulate as much wealth and they don't have to pay any income tax. He says, my God, would you teach me? And I said, no. Now, you wrote the book, How to Become a Person of Interest. And I will argue, I think if we want to become a person of interest, I say become scarce.
Yep.
He says, you're not going to teach me? And I said, no, sir. He says, we've got an hour and 34-minute flight. I said, I know. He says, you're not going to teach me? And I said, please, sir, don't take any disrespect. I don't have any individual clients. Today, I would have taken him as a client, but I was trying to prove that having something to say was more important than a sale. Yeah. I said, my clients are actually financial advisors. As a matter of fact, I'm flying to Lauderdale. I'm going to teach 27 financial advisors how to take their clients' wealth off the radar screen. He goes, funny you should mention that. I have 7 friends. They're back in coach. 4 of them are financial advisors. Would you teach them? And I said, hell no. No. And he says, you're not going to teach me? And I said, please do not take offense. I don't have clients. And he said, let me tell you who you're talking to. Mm-hmm. Now, coach, I'm not stupid. Mm-hmm. All right. He says, let me tell you who you're talking to. And I knew what was coming out of his mouth. He was going to give me either his net worth, how much money he had. He said, I sell every United States federal penitentiary their security system. Mm. And I looked at him and smiled and I said, you're worth a lot of money. And he said, yes, I am. I said, this would be perfect for you. And he said, you're not going to show me? I said, no, sir, I'm not. Now, the man followed me to baggage claim wanting a business card. And here's my point. If you can articulate why you do what you do,
Yep.
more important than the what it is that you do, you will become a person of interest just by default. And he had no idea how to get off the radar screen of the IRS, nor was I going to teach him. I'm going to give you a second example. I'm flying first class to Dallas. We've got our quarterly boot camp in Dallas. I'm sitting next to a billionaire. We Googled her after we landed. We start talking about our lives, and we start talking about Simon Sinek, and she says, I know Simon. I said, you know Simon Sinek? It is my goal in sometime in my life to meet the man. She goes, yes, I do know him. And she says, why do you like what Simon does? And I said, because he helped me find my why. And she said, what is your why? Now listen, I thought I nailed this. And I'm sitting next to a billionaire who could actually financially afford to buy any product I could think of. I've got an hour flight. She's not going anywhere. This will be fun. So I looked at her and I said, I want to teach every United States tax-paying citizen the difference between how true wealth works and simply chasing rates of returns, so that if they simply implemented what it is that I already know, they could retire and not file a tax return. And it was an eighth of a second. She looked at me and she says, what if we don't mind paying taxes? And I smiled and I said, we're just not a good fit. Now, very nice lady, very cordial, very nice. I had no intent of selling anything. Here's what I would have done 5 years ago before I met you. I would have gotten her address, her business address. I would have gotten a box of chocolates, a leather-bound binder of every financial product I could sell, hoping to maybe hook something. Today, I shook her hand. I said, good luck. Have fun. She was on her way to Tokyo. They held a jumbo jet 34 minutes until she got on the flight.
So when you think, so I want to bring something out that you said. This is very important for people watching this. I believe, as Tom does, as Sinek does, in the law of diffusion, right? And the law of diffusion tells us that 16% of people are innovators and early adopters, right? And those are the people most likely to be interested. That means 84%. And if you study the law of diffusion, it says 34% are early majority, another 34% are late majority, and then roughly 16% are what's called laggards, right? Now, this is important because, to Tom's point, when you have a strong belief and you know why you do what you do, you will know that literally in the first conversation if they believe the same things you do. So Tom and I always, joke back and forth. Would you rather know in 15 seconds or would you rather chase somebody for 15 months? Because, we've actually changed the way we follow up in my company for a number of reasons. I taught a course on negotiating a few months ago, and I really studied the top negotiators, and I got back to the EOS. And I like to say now, if you see me speak and you know you need a coach and you don't take action tonight, you and I both know the likelihood of you not signing me up as your coach is going to go down 90% when you walk out that door. It may never happen, right? But if you believe the same things I do, that you need somebody in your life, you need somebody pushing, then let's get you started. Now, we've actually started to say, if you're interested, but you're not taking action, we're only going to follow up with you for 2 weeks. And if you don't take action in 2 weeks, right? I've actually taught my salespeople to say, when they say, well, will you follow up with me? I've actually taught them to say, well, Coach Burt's taken away my ability to follow up with you. He believes if you don't take action in less than 2 weeks from seeing him speak and knowing that he can help you, then you're not serious enough. And he is only looking for the most serious people in the world, okay? So to Tom's point, 84%, we got to separate these people out, who is serious and who's not serious. Because think about the amount of time you've wasted in your life trying to convince a person. And my saying is, the people you have to beg to get in are always the first ones trying to get out, right? Or the people you have to manipulate to get in are always the first ones trying to get out.
Or convince them to stay.
When it comes to the person of interest, when it comes to the EOS, let's walk through if a person was tightening this up. Because what would you say, 95% of people do not have an explanation of services? They've never thought about it?
It's higher than that.
Okay, so 98, 90. Yeah, so almost 100% of people, right, I know that we've ever coached, has never even really thought about having an explanation of service. They have no awareness, no understanding of how it speeds up the velocity of a sale, helps you identify. Now, I actually use the EOS for a number of other reasons. I use it for recruiting. I use it for partnerships. I use it for, see, if we don't believe the same things, I've come to the conclusion that all conflict that happens in the world happens when two people don't believe the same things. Okay. And that's as simple as, if I believe in coming in early and staying late, and you believe in showing up late and leaving early, we don't believe the same things. Okay. It's only a matter of time before we're going to have conflict with each other. Okay. So Tom, if a person was tightening up their explanation of service, what would be the framework they would use? Where would they even need to start considering to think? Because a lot of people will be thinking, man, I don't even have an EOS. I don't even know what I've never even thought about it before. Where would they start?
Well, there's a couple things. There is theexplanationofservices.com, which is a website that does have a webinar or a virtual training. You get a workbook, and what I don't think is on the website is, I will give everyone who takes the course a 30-minute review after you're done with it. You can imagine, I can't have time to spend the rest of my life fine-tuning an EOS. The neat thing is, it's all on video, and you will get to hear me speak on how to build the explanation of services. But here's something I want most people to think about. We are trained by corporate America to sell a corporate's product through a corporate lawyer. Mm-hmm. All right. In other words, we have to make sure we have language. We have to make sure that it's full disclosure and all that other garbage, which is one of the reasons why we all look alike and sound alike. Mm-hmm. We're trained to come out and just be monotone and say the same thing. So the first thing you have to do is you have to ask yourself, can I even be unique? Mm-hmm. Some jobs you cannot. But if you have the ability, if you are in a commoditized business where the only thing that is going to get you a job is by saying what you do, and that person at that minute has to buy from you, that's really the only time that will work. And I think one of the most profound things that Simon says in his 18-minute conversation is that as a salesperson, your job is not to go out and find people who need to buy your stuff. Your job as a salesperson is simply to go out and find people who believe what you believe. Mm-hmm. So the first thing you have to do is you have to have a belief statement. Mm-hmm. So when you and I started doing EOS training, you had an EOS buried. You just did not know how to articulate at all, right, all of those things you believe. Yeah. And once you begin to see, when you start a conversation with what you are passionately believing, two things are going to happen. Either someone is going to want to go with you on your journey, or someone is turned off by your journey and will never support you. Mm. Either way, you win. And I caution people, when you start talking to people with a higher net worth, don't always talk about saving money. Mm-hmm. Money is not an issue right now for me. What is? Time. Mm-hmm. Time. This is why I was so thrilled when this billionaire said, I'm basically not interested. Yes, thank you. I would have chased you for 6 months. So the first thing we have to do is we have to acknowledge, do we have a formidable why? Why do we do what we do? And if you have a strong why, an explanation of services is very simple. If you do not have a why, then you need to buy this book, and this will help you find it. Once you have a why, the EOS course will be so easy. If you do not have a why, there is a portion in that EOS course which will help you find your why, and it's based on Simon Sinek's teachings. I want to, so that the I want to part is all about you, your vision, your passion, your legacy, your mission. The so that part is singular, articulate, and for the benefit of somebody else. And when you can start voicing your explanation of services in terms that benefit somebody else more than you, you'll make more money than you are entitled.
Yep. So when you think about it, there's a framework to this. And what I find is I have used the explanation of service to sell what it is we have, right? Because I'm explaining every day on the phone or in person. I've used it in interviews, podcasts, television shows. I use it when I sit down with a person to see if they want to join our team or not, by saying, this is what we believe. This is why we believe it. This is what we do. Okay. Would this sound something that interests you? I use the question a lot. Out of everything I shared with you, what piques your interest the most? What would prohibit you from moving forward with me? Like the EOS is a framework that builds momentum, in my opinion. And like I said, it allows you to separate out who's in, who's out, who's interested, who's not interested. Okay. So for the people that are watching today, if you just give a slight overview, there's really 2 or 3 main parts to the explanation of service.
Correct. There's only 3.
Yep. So there's
and
3
it
parts.
depends on,
Go ahead.
it depends on the setting. So if I'm with someone that I want to have as a potential client, I'm going to go through all 3. If I don't have a clue who you are, I'm going to stop after the first. So the 3 parts of an explanation of services. The first is a passionate belief statement.
Yep.
What do you believe?
Yep.
Now, if I stood up in front of a group of people and I said, this is really what I'm passionate about, and if you just sit still long enough, I'll be able to explain all the passion that I have. If that's how you speak, it's not going to work. You have to have a passionate statement of fact. Mm-hmm. Then reading body language, if they're intrigued by the statement of fact, you have to give an example of what you have done for somebody else. Mm-hmm. And the example cannot be, and this guy bought this big thing and I bought a boat. Mm-hmm. That isn't an example. That's a result of having a good why, but that's not an example. The example has to be, what did the person who heard this, how did they benefit? And again, if you're reading the body language and they're still engaged, then you ask a question of inclusion. If I could do exactly the same thing for you, what's keeping us from doing business? Mm-hmm. So it's a statement of fact, it's an example, and it's a question of inclusion.
Now, typically, how long, there's people out there watching this, and obviously if they want to get started on their explanation, they can go, tell them the place they can go again, and we'll send this out to all the people that are on the webinar.
theexplanationofservices.com. theexplanationofservices.com. And so what was your other question?
So they could go there if they want to get started, but there's going to be some things that you and I are going to do throughout the year where they could potentially come to a 1-day, right, or a boot camp. Because right. To me, you and I did a retreat down at our house in Florida at sabbatical where we spent 2 or 3 days with people, helping them get clear, right? And Lakin at CoachBurt.com is on here. If there's anybody interested in doing something like that, or spending a day with Tom and I, or a retreat on your explanation of services, then you need to email in at Lakin at CoachBurt.com so you're the first one to know when we announce dates. That could be at the lodge, it could be at the house in Florida, it could be at the Greatness Factory. But I have found that this one framework, okay? Now, before, I didn't have Pray Drive in place before, right? Now I've got Pray Drive in place, and I realize that a person has to have an activation of Pray Drive. But if you were looking at the system today, it's activation of Pray Drive. Then we go to work on your explanation of service, right? Then we go to work on how you generate leads, how you follow up, and this ties into how you follow up based, right? Because if you and I believe the same thing, why are we not doing business with each other, right? If you and I believe that our life is better off with each other in it, why are we not doing something together? Like, right? Like the EOS ties into the selling system, the follow up. It also ties into something Tom's going to be working on, which is how to extract referrals out of your advocates, turning your clients into advocates. Because when people have strong beliefs about each other, they fight for each other. They feed each other emotional support, energy, referrals, affirmation, love. They open up each other's networks to each other. So what you're really doing, what I've learned over the last, 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years maybe, is that, man, it really is a defining mechanism that ties into all parts of what I would call the monster growth system. And ultimately, when you have this in place, you become a person of interest. You become the buyer versus the seller because you are differentiated. You have something unique in the market to position yourself. So if you're interested in doing something like that with Tom or I, email Lakin at CoachBurt.com. She's on here with us, and she can let you know the very first time we roll something out, because we will be rolling some things out for you to come and just really work on this one piece. Now, let's close with this. When you have a good EOS, talk to the people on here about how it improves close ratios, how it improves velocity of sale. Because let's say you have a person that's interested and you believe the same things, right? And it doesn't mean that they're going to immediately say, I'm in, sign me up, right? That initiates. But talk to them about, because I always make an argument that a compelling explanation of service. When I spoke at 10X, for example, and the day before, nobody knew me, knew who I was. I walked around the stadium and I could go places, and I think we sold 7 books before I spoke. I was an unknown person. I get on that stage in front of 10,000 people and I come out of the gate strong I'm Coach Michael Burt. I believe everybody needs a coach in life. How many people in this room believe that? And they start cheering right out of the gates. Some people told me that within 5 minutes of hearing me speak, they got up and sprinted to my booth. We had over 500 people in line to buy a book, take a picture, all because in 1 hour, I was able to articulate my beliefs in a compelling way. 500 people said, I'm in. They would walk up and say, I don't even know what I'm signing up for, but just sign me up. If it's included with you, I'm in. Now, I really attribute a lot of that to the power of having a world-class explanation of service and really being able to articulate that in front of 10,000 people. So talk to the people watching, Tom, about how this helps the process of pitching and selling your services.
Well, the first thing we have to understand is by giving an explanation of services does not guarantee a sale. But what it does do is it guarantees you the opportunity to find somebody who believes what you believe. And then your selling skills or lack thereof will become very pronounced. Mm-hmm. So again, I think the reason why you had 500 people sprint in 10 minutes was because you started with what you believe. You allowed people to see your inner self. And by looking at who you are rather than what you do, those people signed up because of who you are, not because of what you do.
Right.
And that's, to me, remember, an elevator pitch was really just designed to create interest. An explanation of services is designed to create action. Buy, don't buy. See you later. Either way, I have a client or I have identified someone who would never be a client.
Yep.
And to me, that is so at my level in my career, I'm looking for the 85% that don't want to do business.
Yep.
And I'm quickly writing those people off because the 80 or the 16%, they will raise their hand and run to the table to sign up.
Yep.
But not unless you know what you're doing. And if you do not articulate, if you do not spend time with this, your first impression could very easily be negative. And then we all know what happens with that.
Yep.
You're fighting for clarity again.
Yeah, and you're fighting for attention, and you just didn't make a strong enough impression to keep a person's attention. So I have found that if you have a compelling belief and you say it with conviction, it's very important how you say it. You say it, the vocal tonality is there. You say it with a high level of conviction. You've had some big revelation. You got a conviction. You're taking action. That when you say your compelling belief, you give an example. Okay, that you can boil it down to this. You give a compelling statement. You have an example of someone you've done it for. You ask a question of inclusion. If we could do this for you, or what piqued your interest about what we did. And then they're going to say, yes, I'm interested, or no, I'm not interested. And I think, that's a good point, because I'm going to talk to our salespeople after this today, because we're making 80 phone calls a day out of our office. And I believe in the 16% rule. And that 16% says out of every 30 people you talk to, 4.8 will be open and interested, or open and inviting to what you have if you use the law of diffusion. And so I think asking these questions right out of the gate, here's what we believe. Okay. Here's what we do or have done. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, let's keep going. Right. And if not, we need to move on to the next person, because we got to go through a lot of duds to find the studs.
So think of a single line standing in front of you. If you had one person stand in front of you and said, this is what I believe, this is why I believe it, and this is who I believe it with, do you believe as I do? Yes or no? Yeah. And if they say yes, good, put them over here. You got an appointment coming up. If they say no, that's the exit. Yep. Next. And boy, that sounds cold, but that really is what our objective is we're trying to lead with what we believe, to find people who believe what we do, because no selling is needed if you find someone who believes what you do. Yeah. Think about it. If there was selling involved when you went to 10X, you would have had to have a salesperson at the table with these 500 stark raving lunatic maniacs who hinge on every word that you just said, wanted to give you money. You didn't need a salesperson. You needed a clerk to take their credit card. And that's because you started with what you believe, and you attracted that 2.4% of the early innovators, not early adopters even. The innovators, the people who would stand in line at Best Buy 6 months before the Apple 26 comes out.
Yeah, that's good.
That's what you found.
That's good. All right. Well, this has been fun. I hope everybody's got some good value out of this, and it starts the process. You can go to theexplanationofservices.com, correct? Okay. Or if you're interested in more things, email Lakin@coachburt.com, and we will help you and point you in the right direction when we roll out some events, when we do the EOS, because it's a very powerful concept.
And
Tom,
one other thing too,
go ahead.
Coach, you've got a coupon. If they use the word Burt, they're going to get $100 off the. It's normally $397, but through Coach Burt, it's $297. And make sure that when you do log in, it's coupon Burt, and then have fun again. And whoever does register, I get to see that. I will reach out to you, and when you're done, we'll have a 30-minute conversation between yourself and me on how to build an EOS.
Absolutely. This one thing, guys, can help you drastically increase your sales. So the amateurs play with the EOS, in my opinion. The professionals spend the time and the energy to get this right. If you got a sales team of 50 people, I'm telling you, you need to get the explanation of services down. For those of you that are watching, I know many of you are selling in different scenarios. This is a key integral part. Don't play around with this concept. Don't be an amateur. Professionals do the work. Professionals put the time in. Professionals have a world-class explanation of service. So I encourage you to get started on this concept. Tom, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're trying to give value to folks that are at home, that are out there, that are discouraged, and they need encouragement. But this is a great time to skill up, guys. Not only is this a great time for you to be taking large levels of action, but it is a great time to skill up, improve your skills. Okay, I'm coaching all kinds of door-to-door people now. Imagine that. They go door-to-door and make their pitch. You need a world-class explanation of service, because you got one
that would be phenomenal
shot when you get at that door, folks. So it's real important that you skill up right now. So you guys have a great day. I'm Coach Michael Burt. God bless you. We believe everybody needs a good coaching life.